Welcome back, YouTubers, for another breakdown of Chapter 6 of this book, The Turner Diaries. Crazy, crazy stuff, man. So, each day I try to break down a chapter of this book and go over everything with you, some different prepping items or ideas that I can gather out of this, trying to take some positive from from a negative book. So a lot of stuff kind of happens in this chapter. You know, the group that Turner's in succeeds in their plot of blowing up a building, and it goes over that, and it also goes over some other things. But the main thing is, you know, you've got two units that are working together out of the organization. You've got Turner's unit and another unit. They've kind of worked together to gather all the items that they need to make an improvised explosive device, and the means to transport it and get it there. Turner's group is basically charged with, you know, making it happen, and they do make it happen in an extreme way. And it kind of is reminiscent of the Oklahoma bombings. Obviously, this book was wrote before then, and you know the law enforcement think that McVeigh used this book as a conduit or as an idea for the Oklahoma City bombing. But this doesn't happen in Oklahoma City. This happens in D.C. at the FBI headquarters, and so they're successful with setting off this explosion. And there's a lot of damage, and a couple of the group members go into the building after the explosion, and you know, from the outside it looks just like a bunch of broken glass and stuff like that, but on the inside they can see the real damage that's occurred. And you know, I found it interesting that Turner, you know, he sees a woman that's been injured. And he renders aid to her, and he improvises a tourniquet. You know, so it kind of goes over, you know, how you could make a tourniquet out of a belt, or this lady's, you know, she had a soft belt around her dress, and he used that as a tourniquet, and he tore part of her dress and made a compress out of that. And so you don't have to buy the high speed tactical stuff. And when I was in the Army, around the time that the book takes place, not when it was written because I was still a kid then, but when the story takes place, you know, that's basically how they were teaching us to render first aid. You know, you kind of improvised your tourniquets. They never issued us a tourniquet. They showed us how to make one out of our little minor first aid kit, which was basically like a pressure dressing, and that was about it. So you had to improvise, and the book kind of reminded me of that. You know, that, you know, there are ways to do things without spending money on all the latest doodads. You know, the cat tourniquet and stuff like that, which are great. If you have them, great, and I think everybody should have multiples of them. But you know, you can still render aid without them. It's probably not going to be as effective though. But something's better than nothing. So you know, that's a contingency again. So you know, you've got your main method of first aid, or with stopping the bleed, is like a cat tourniquet. Well, your second, you know, maybe, hey, I'm going to use whatever I can find, some shoelace or a belt or whatever, and cinch that sucker down to stop the bleeding. And then, you know, a pressure dressing can be made out of anything. It's nothing but a rag. Yeah, it may not be sterile, but hey, man, you're not in a sterile environment. As soon as you open that package anyway, it's no longer sterile. Once you slap it on there or you touch it with your grubby mitts, you know, shit gets spread around. So I think people need to realize, you know, that you can use other things, and in a expedient method. You know, one of the other things that was really driven home was, the whole idea about, a small unit being able to accomplish quite a bit. In the military, I worked on a site where we were protecting items vital to national security. And our biggest threat, what we practiced for every day, was a highly motivated group of 3 to 5 highly motivated people trying to do harm to or to gain access. And that's basically the size of these units in the organization that Turner's involved with. They're small units, and they work individually and with other units, but with a lot of secrecy in that. So it just kind of drove home to me how, a few people that are very motivated can accomplish quite a bit, especially if they've got one goal in mind. So if you're working with a group, and that can be for anything like farming or raising chickens or whatever, or something devious as in Turner, in what Turner does. So you know uh, motivated people working towards the same goal can accomplish quite a bit, um, if they stay focused on it. So the another thing is, that I got out of this chapter is, they towards the end of the chapter, one of the other units, um, the other unit that was supposed to help them get the explosives, they had raided munitions place, or Aberdeen Proving Grounds to be more specific, and they had acquired a bunch of hand grenades and landmines and stuff like that. And that's something that people, I don't think they really discuss that much. When something happens, when you can no longer acquire things legally to protect yourself or to defend yourself, where are you going to get those items? How are you going to get them? That's something that you should think about ahead of time. Where's a good place to get more ammunition? Do you have a means to reload your ammo? Do you know somebody that has the supplies to reload your ammo? Do you know somebody that does all that stuff already? That may be over your head. There's just so many things to think about. Where are you getting your food from? Are you raising your own food? Can you go acquire food somewhere else? Who can help you get food? Um, those are all broader questions that can be brought up or thought about, in this chapter. And I think Pierce does a good job of trying to relate that. His writing is kind of dry, and you can definitely tell he's a physicist or an engineer or whatever, because it's kind of dry, and he goes into details on some of the things that you really don't need to go into detail on, and not into detail where you may want him to go into detail, like the love interest between Catherine and Turner. It's kind of lame. You can tell this guy's sex life has just got to suck. His wife has just got to be miserable. um, but in other aspects, you look at how he knows how to build things and how things work and how chemicals work together, and those things are useful, at least in this context. Of course, they can be useful in other ways. I think we've really lost the art or the knowledge of how things work, and we may know, but we haven't passed that down to the next generation. So mom and dad may know how to do something, but the kids don't know how to do it, and we kind of take it for granted that they know how to do it, but they don't. I think because they're distracted with everything else that's going on. When we were children, it was really different. When you watched mom or dad or grandma or grandpa do things, they kind of had you help. Our children or the next generation, they've been distracted by cell phones or media, television. Um, so they're not getting that hands-on or direct input from from a an adult or a father figure or mother figure or whatnot, and that's kind of sad, because there's a lot of knowledge that's not getting passed down. Um, so those are some of my takeaways on this. Think about it. When if you get a chance to do something with your kids or grandkids, um, get them away from that television or that cell phone or whatever the electronic device is. Get them to do some hands-on. I think that it'll pay off in the long run, especially if you want the next generation of Americans to be as badass as the last. Anyway, I'll check you YouTubers out later. See you again tomorrow, and we'll go over, we'll read chapter 7 and then go over it tomorrow night. See ya.